Joining us today. Welcome to the webinar. I cannot see my notes to get you started, but we're thankful that you're here with the SBDC, and we're facilitating this webinar today with our speaker, Cameron Nelson. Cameron, I'm going to let you tell everyone a little bit about yourself, but I will quickly tell everyone that we are recording this webinar and it will be posted on our website. And you will also, all attendees will receive an email with a link to the recording and to the slides. But before we get started, I'd like to welcome Cameron Nelson. And Cameron, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. As you said, I'm having a little technical difficulties on my end, but I'm sure you can give us a wonderful synopsis of yourself. Thank you so much, Cameron, for being here today.
Thank you, and hello everybody, and welcome. I'm Cameron Nelson, the founder of Tenzing Startup Consultants, and I'm also an advisor here at the Virginia SBDC. I teach on a variety of digital and technology topics relevant to small businesses. One of the most impactful presentations I've been giving for the last year or so and updating regularly is this one. It's about AI and ChatGPT. Because this is a really fast-moving technology that a lot of businesses are curious about, many businesses are using. And I just want to give a good foundational understanding to everybody about what you can do with AI, what are some of the most useful ways it can benefit your business, and also what are the latest technology advancements and updates that have happened just even within the last month or two. So I also look forward to taking your questions at the end, so feel free to jot those down as we go, and we should have time to get to all of those at the end of the presentation. So with that, let's jump right into it. So the first thing I want to start with is just a quick definition of what GPT stands for, because as we talk about ChatGPT, a lot of people don't know what the GPT is. So that term stands for a generative pre-trained transformer, which is a family of language models and artificial intelligence models that were created by the company of OpenAI back in about 2018. And when we hear of GPT, we also hear sometimes of large language model or LLM. And this is a type of artificial intelligence program that's specifically made to analyze and understand text. And also, we're seeing this more and more in images and video and music. So you can train, and many companies are training different LLMs on certain things. So maybe they're feeding it a huge archive of pictures of, say, sports. And the whole point of their product is going to be to generate pictures of sports because the LLM has been trained on sports imagery. Similarly, other companies are training their LLMs on music creation by AI, video creation, and of course, text creation. And the way they work is they're trained on massive amounts of data, like books and articles if you're going for a text LLM. And by doing so, it learns how language works, or it learns how images work, or it learns how videos work. And so it's a really quite interesting and somewhat revolutionary technology that we're going to be talking about. So there's several main competitors here with the AI models that are, again, they're GPT models and they're LLM models. The main one that we're focused on here is ChatGPT. ChatGPT was really the first out of the gate with an AI chatbot, and it kind of took a lot of companies by surprise, and Google has rushed to catch up, and they launched their own AI not long after. It's called Gemini. Another very popular one that's a very top contender for its performance or how accurately it answers questions is Anthropic. And also Agent GPT is another option here that not a lot of people know about, but it takes a really unique and innovative approach to answering your questions or generating the content you want using GPT and LLM technology. So even though there's four main competitors and there's a lot of smaller competitors in the AI space, and these are all options for you as a business owner to use for sure. And a lot of the information I'm going to be showing you is applicable no matter which platform you decide to go with. But for the purpose of today's presentation, I'm going to focus on two platforms and compare and contrast them so you get a real good idea of what each one is capable of. The first one we're going to look at is, of course, ChatGPT. It starts at there's a free tier, which is quite useful. You can create either a free account or even start using it with no account. But if you want access to image generation and some of the more useful and advanced tools and techniques I'm going to show you, you have to pay $20 a month. Its status is it was launched several years ago. It's already on the latest version, which is called O1 Preview, and this launched in September of 2024. The naming is a bit weird here. O1 Preview. We're also going to see things called O1 Mini, and they have like 5 or 6 different models right now. I think the game plan with OpenAI is to consolidate all of these into their version 5, which might launch next year. But for now, you do have to pick which of their models you want to use, and I'll tell you, which one is best for which situations. Some of the pros of OpenAI's ChatGPT are its simplicity. Now, I did just mention they have some confusing naming conventions for their various options. So once you pick it, though, it's a very simple way you interact with their AI. It's very intuitive, and you don't really need to configure it. It's kind of ready to go right off the bat. And it's really good for many general business use cases. We're going to be talking about the main ones here in a moment. It does have a few cons, though. One of the cons is that it has limited autonomy, so it's not able to access a lot of other services. So if you wanted your AI to book your hotels or access your bank accounts, ChatGPT is not able to do that right now. And it also lacks some of the deeper customization because it is meant to be more simple and user-friendly. Now we can compare that to Agent GPT. This also has a free tier, or you can pay $40 a month to upgrade it. This is still a beta product, and it actually uses the ChatGPT 4.0 infrastructure for its processing. And it has some pros versus ChatGPT, one of which it has what's called orchestration and integration. So it can link to various other services you might be using. Could be, again, we mentioned booking or banks or Slack or various chat messaging apps, and it can access more other services on your behalf. It has more autonomous working capabilities, and we're going to see what that means as it's able to intuitively figure out what kind of questions you might be asking it next and answer those automatically. So that's pretty neat. However, I think it's can be said it's a bit more of a complex system to use to get the full advantage of. And you do have to manage the chat bot agents a little bit more closely to get the most benefit of using Agent GPT. Now, before we go any further, I wanted to talk about how intelligent is ChatGPT. Now, specifically, these results are for ChatGPT version 4, the latest major version, but the other competitors that I mentioned, like Google, they're going to be ranking very similarly. And every week or every month, one platform kind of leapfrogs over the rest and improves its ranking in these categories. So it's a moving target, and every AI is trying to be the best with things like this. And these are specifically exam results, things like the GRE, the SAT, the law, and the LSAT scores. And we can see here that between version 3.5 of ChatGPT, which was released about a year ago, and version 4, which was released maybe 6 or so months ago, that ChatGPT came a long, long way in scoring very highly across many of these placement tests. And it's, of course, only improving. I'm sure version 5, if it comes out next year, will see huge leaps forward in these categories as well. And so what this means is that if you ask it a question about a topic related to math, science, even like things like biology, chemistry, physics, they're able to answer with a lot of accuracy and authority. And generally, they place very highly on these tests. So just to give you some idea of the level of intelligence in the answers you're getting back, and can you trust them? Can you believe in them? And we're going to talk more about trusting the answers in a moment. But just so you know, it does score very highly on the standardized placement tests. So I know that the main reason many of you are here is how can you use these AI systems to help your business, help it to sell more products, help it to generate more profit. So there are 5 main things we're going to talk about here. And these are ways that AI can help you and your business succeed. The first one is in content generation. The second area is in doing research, especially things like market research, product research, or many types of research. Third is helping you in idea generation. It's great at helping you brainstorm and coming up with unique and innovative ideas to help sell your products or for products you could create. Fourth is data analysis and providing insights. So AI is really powerful. You saw that it scored very highly on the math placement tests, on the SAT and the GREs. And so it's great at analyzing your business's data. And fifth is helping you even prototype and design things your business might need, whether it's a website or a mobile app or some other product. Prototyping and design is a real strength of these AI models. So the first area we're going to talk about here is content generation. And probably when I speak to small businesses, this is one of the most sought after aspects of ChatGPT because many businesses have to write blog posts, social media posts, sending out email newsletters, and many other forms of communication, which can be very, very time consuming, especially, if you have to worry about spell checking and grammar checking everything twice. It just can really bog down a small business, but it's expected nowadays to get the customers to be very active online, being very active on social media. So AI and ChatGPT can really help generate content. First off, it can help you draft initial versions of content that you want to post online. If you have a kind of an outline or some ideas, ChatGPT can expand on those. They can write a full paragraph, a full blog post, an email newsletter, whatever you need. Secondly, it's great at helping you maintain a consistent tone and voice. So if your business has a certain tone it likes to use when it talks to its customers online, maybe it's very serious and scientific, or maybe it's very humorous and lighthearted, you can provide ChatGPT some examples. You can show it a website where you have already written things or copy and paste, and just say, copy this tone and this voice for future blog posts or future email newsletters. And this really helps you create that content that can align well with your brand identity. Third is with expanding your content. So if you just have a short blog post, maybe it's just a few sentences, you would like to expand it by adding examples, explanations, more relevant details. ChatGPT is great at taking your initial idea and running with it and expanding it. It can even cite its sources where it got certain information, so you can check if you want and be sure that it's citing correct facts. And lastly is SEO optimization. So SEO stands for search engine optimization. And what it really is about improving the words on your website, or even if you send out email newsletters or you put messages up on a social media platform like Facebook, by having the right keywords and even hashtags in those types of communications, it can help you get a broader audience. So ChatGPT is really good at analyzing trends and words and search volumes in real time, and you can ask it to help provide relevant phrases and keywords or hashtags that you can include in your posts. It can really help boost not only people finding your website for your business, but also finding your content online, whether it's Facebook or some other place that you're posting it. So with all of the different ways you can interact with a text-based AI that's helping you write things, you might be wondering what are the best words and phrases to use as you're creating your prompt to the AI. And so here's a list of 22 different things that you can consider incorporating into your prompt as you write questions for AI to answer. And while there's 22 here and they all can be very useful in certain situations, I highlighted the ones that I think are the most important and that I use most frequently myself. The first is the tone. So you can specify that you'd like the tone to be either formal, casual, informational, persuasive, or something else. You can specify the format. So again, if this is going to be an email newsletter, you could say keep it under 500 words. Or if you would like a bullet point list or something else, you can specify that. It's also good to state what your objective is. So if you're trying to sell a product, maybe you want to be persuasive or informative. Maybe you're just trying to entertain. And so by telling the AI what the objective is, it can help that tailor the information and that content it gives you better for your needs. I've also found specifying limitations very helpful. Could be word count or something else. If you don't want it to use certain words or ideas, you could just say, please don't do this, and it'll know that's a limitation. You can specify which audience you have in mind for this. And if you want it to have citations or have exact quotes from sources of information, you can just ask it to do that. All of these AI models are happy to follow any of these prompts, but as you mix and match them, you might see that some prompts result in just really good output and you're very happy with. So it's just as a matter of experimentation because AI is developing so rapidly. The prompts you use and the ways people are creative in using prompts to get AI to give them the information they want is a constantly evolving thing. So I encourage you to experiment with this a little bit, but I think this prompt guide is a great way to get started. So next, I want to give an actual challenge to ChatGPT, and I want to ask it to write a blog post for our company. Now, we're going to pretend, for the purposes of these examples, that we are the Purina dog food company, because I think many people know about Purina, and at least we know about dogs in the dog food industry a little bit. So we're all kind of familiar with what this industry already is. So I'm going to ask ChatGPT, and you're going to watch with me its answer to write a blog post. Now I'm specifying the constraints. I want it 200 words or less that explains the benefits of my product to the target market. So you can see I'm using some of those prompts in here to tell it what the goals are. The tone should be informative, and the goal is to persuade prospective customers to choose my product over my competitors. So now we're going to go and we're going to actually input this prompt into ChatGPT, and we're going to let it give us an answer. So I'm going to pick just the default model, and I'm going to put in the prompt, and it's going to go. So if you've never used ChatGPT before, this is the interface you'll be looking at a lot. You have your chat boxes on kind of right oriented, its answers are left oriented, and it's kind of like a text message you're sending back and forth. So here's its answer. It gave it to us in about 10 seconds. So here's the blog post, and it starts by saying why Purina is the right choice for your dog's health and happiness. As a dog owner, you want the best for your furry friend, a happy tail, boundless energy, and a lifetime of health. Interestingly, I do this example every couple of months and I see how its answers change. And so when I asked this, a couple of months ago to ChatGPT during a presentation like this, its answer was slightly different. And I think that's great because it's evolving and learning more and more nuanced details about how to answer questions like this. So this is a great sign. And it says, that's why Purina has been trusted by pet parents for over 90 years. So it's researching about my company. I didn't tell it anything about Purina. It knows Purina's been around about 90 years, which is right. And it's identifying some of our products and some of our target markets. And overall, this is a very good blog post for this company. Again, I gave it no information. So it researched all this information about the company by itself and about my competitors. But we want to now compare output of ChatGPT to Agent GPT. So the link for Agent GPT is down here at the bottom. And again, this presentation will be emailed to you. So when you go over to Agent GPT, we're able to go ahead and just put in this same prompt. And this is the interface for Agent GPT. It's a little different, but it essentially has the same kind of areas. You put in your prompt and you hit go. Now with Agent GPT, what it does is it answers the question, and we see it answer the question already here in the green box, but I'm not doing anything right now. It's automatically going on, and it's asking itself further questions to refine its response. So what it's looking to do is see what questions I might ask it next based on my initial question, and it's doing that automatically. And that's the power of Agent GPT, is it's essentially refining its answer over and over and over until it comes up with the best answer possible. Now we saw ChatGPT gave us one answer and stopped, but Agent GPT keeps on going. Now it stopped now, and because this is still a rather early product and it's a beta phase, it says right here, max loops of 5 exceeded. So it stops after 5 reiterations. But we can see some of the versions it went through and some of the um, follow-up questions it asked automatically. So it automatically gave itself the task to proofread and edit the blog post for clarity and effectiveness. And before that, it proofread it, and then it write a blog post of an informative and persuasive tone. So it kept refining its answer. And I'll read some of this, and we can kind of see how it responded. So it says, as a responsible and caring dog owner, you want to provide the best nutrition for your furry friend. That's why choosing the right dog food is crucial. With so many options available in the market, it can be overwhelming to make the right choice. And this blog post will explore why Purina dog food is the ideal choice. So it has slightly different formatting here. It has several categories: superior quality ingredients, where it talks about how the high quality of the ingredients is a standout feature. The next paragraph is balanced and complete nutrition, and then safety and trust, and then about the taste of the dog food, and then a conclusion. So again, I didn't tell Agent GPT any other information about this company, the target market, the products, nothing. And it researched it and it wrote this very, very convincing blog post. So this is a great way to use the text generation features of AI to help you write content for your business. And you can really be asking these any types of questions or writing any types of content as we discussed. There's a lot of different phrases and a lot of different prompts you can use to get the answer you want. Now, the second area where AI can be very powerful in a small business situation is in doing research, specifically market research, which is something that businesses often have to neglect because they just don't have the time, energy, and resources to pursue doing market research. But of course, those businesses that have the best research and analytics and understanding of their market and competitors can get a big advantage. So here's 5 key ways that AI can help you with your market research. Number 1 is it can actually help you formulate questions that you want to be asking. So you might not even know what questions you need to be asking. Say you want to do some surveys or do interviews, or even maybe you do want to do a focus group and that kind of thing. It can suggest a list of questions to help you get the data you need. Secondly, it can help you do a competitive analysis and generate reports comparing your business to your competitors, so you can learn about things like your strengths and weaknesses and where the opportunities and threats lie. Third is with trend analysis. So whichever industry you're in, there are certain trends. These can be learned about by news, articles, reports, um, and you can identify emerging trends and market shifts this way. But many people don't have the time to be fluent in all of these topics, so you can ask ChatGPT to do a trend analysis for you. Fourth is data interpretation. So if you collect data for marketing needs, maybe you did a short survey or some interviews, and now you've got hundreds of pages of text, you can actually just send that to ChatGPT and ask it to interpret these results. Say, summarize these results for me. Tell me the highlights, tell me how it can affect my business. How can I become more profitable, right? Because that's really what you're trying to achieve. And it'll provide insights into patterns, correlations, and potential opportunities. And I will say it's very, very good at this, surprisingly good at understanding this type of data and really pulling out good insights. And fifth is consumer insights. So again, if you have data, whether it's maybe on a Facebook page and you have posts and you have your customers replying to your posts, or maybe this is on X or some other social media platform, you can copy and paste a mass amount of text or even just give it the link to your page and say, hey, tell me some of the trends or the sentiments or the preferences or the pain points people are talking about with my product. And within a flash, ChatGPT will have analyzed all of that text and given you the insights that you're looking for. So to test this out, I want to give ChatGPT and Agent GPT another challenge. And this is going to be, again, for Purina dog food. And I'm going to want a SWOT analysis, which stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of my top competitors. And here I'm saying in the formatting, use bullet points and also link to your sources. So let's see how well ChatGPT, first off, does at this question. So you might have noticed briefly that it was searching the web. Now, searching the web is a relatively new feature for ChatGPT. Before about a month ago, when this feature was released, ChatGPT would have said my data only goes up to mid 2023. So I don't know anything that happened beyond that. But now it's integrated and built in that if it seems like there's information beyond 2023 that is going to be useful to answer your question, ChatGPT automatically searches the internet, finds relevant websites, and incorporates that data. In a flash, as we saw, it already did the SWOT analysis. So we'll look through some of the highlights here. It's found for some of our competitors. One is called Mars Pet Care. And here we can see that it has some strengths versus our brand, that it has a diverse brand portfolio, including the brands of Pedigree, Royal Canine. So being a dog owner, I've heard of Pedigree and Royal Canin, and so you might be familiar with these brands as well. It also talks about the weaknesses. So one potential weakness for this company is that it has a limited focus on premium and specialized pet foods. And it also goes on to talk about some opportunities and some threats. But it doesn't just stop with one competitor and the analysis. It goes on to talk about a second competitor, which is Hill's Pet Nutrition. Similarly, it breaks down its strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. So this is great information for me being the owner of Purina to really understand where my competitors are situated in the market. And it also has a third competitor, the J.M. Smucker Company Pet Food Division. So you can see that it did a lot of research very, very quickly, and it gave it to me in the format I asked for, which is bullet points. So it actually followed that prompt very, very well. Now let's go back to Agent GPT, and I'm going to have it do the same analysis. Give me a SWOT analysis. And here we see that its limitation, because it's based on a version of ChatGPT before searching the web was available, it's saying that it's not able to search the internet for these up-to-date websites and these up-to-date facts. Probably in a SWOT analysis, it's okay that the data for it ended last year, and in some situations it might not be. So that's a limitation you'd want to be aware of with Agent GPT. And so the next phase that the AI can be very helpful with is with idea generation. So this is great if you're running a business or maybe you're starting a new business and you're looking for some ideas of your products or how to sell your products into the market. And maybe you just want a partner to help you brainstorm some ideas. So ChatGPT is great as a brainstorming partner, can just give you instant feedback on your ideas and point out where your logic is flawed or where you're missing certain pieces of information. This can often be helpful if you start with a theme. So, you say what industry your business is in or what you propose to create, and it can then start to help you brainstorm. Next, you can also provide creative prompts. So if you want to explore a certain area of business opportunity, and you're looking to maybe mix and match two different types of products or mix and match of products in different industries, and you've never really heard of this happening before, it can be very creative in giving you some ideas for these types of products, which goes along with number 3, combining the concepts. So one strength I always see, and I'm very impressed with, is being able to generate new ideas based on existing human ideas. So whether it's creating a unique piece of poetry, writing a short story, or coming up with a new business idea, ChatGPT can come up with something that human has never thought of before, yet it's based on the synthesis of many different business models and the synthesis of many different products. So never discount its ability to come up with some really surprising things to help you generate new ideas. And fourth is problem solving. So launching any business or expanding into new products and ideas is going to come with a host of challenges and problems to solve. I have 2 kids, and my son was recently trying to create some fantasy laser weapon, as boys like to think of these weapon things. And we asked ChatGPT how to make it possible, and it actually thought through many of the cons and the problems and provided some potential solutions. And I'm no physicist, but they sounded pretty accurate to me. And in other situations, the answers that it gives in solving problems, if it's in an industry you're familiar with, you would probably immediately say, yeah, actually, that sounds right based on my knowledge of the industry. So I'm constantly impressed with its ability to problem solve and dig deeply into finding new business and product opportunities. So in the next scenario I want to present is let's have ChatGPT brainstorm new pet foods I can develop that will sell well in the market. I want this to be short, under 150 words, and I want it to use paragraphs this time, not bullet points. So let's see how well it does. And you might notice that in this answer, the text appeared a little bit more slowly than in some of the previous answers it gave. And this is a common aspect of using any AI right now is that there's millions of people using ChatGPT right this second. And so it's got the burden of balancing the generation, the thinking and the generation of all this output. And sometimes from day to day, hour to hour, minute to minute, it can be slower because it has just more load on it at that time. Sometimes, really rarely now, it'll actually just be unavailable. So if you're thinking of using it and you need it done, very, very quickly, you might find it just to be slow or unavailable at that time. So keep it in mind. It's not always instantly accessible, but I think that problem will be solved in the future. So the answer it gave on brainstorming new types of pet foods, it says that to stand out in the competitive pet food market, Purina can develop several innovative products tailored to the evolving customer demands. So it's taking a forward-thinking approach and thinking, where are the trends headed in this industry? What are the evolving customer demands? Number one is customized nutrition packs. So it says we can offer personalized meal plans based on a pet's age, breed, weight, activity level, and other health conditions, and provide a subscription that sends fresh meals to busy pet owners. So that sounds like a pretty good product for Purina to have. Secondly is functional foods. So if there's a specific health need like digestive support, joint health, or stress reduction, we could have foods with probiotics, omega-3s, and aptogens. I'm not sure what that is, but I trust that it found that out from some scientific journal. And it's saying that these can differentiate our food line. So that sounds pretty good if you have a dog with these conditions. Number three is to have sustainable and eco-friendly options. Number four is humanized pet treats, so gourmet human grade snacks like pumpkin spice and blueberry. Very interesting ideas. I've never heard of pumpkin spice or blueberry flavored dog food or treats, but maybe that could work. And then breed specific diets. So, if I'm the owner of this company, these are five probably pretty feasible and maybe lucrative new ideas for me to pursue. And let's also jump in and ask Agent GPT and see what kind of information it has. So it says that we can have an option with limited ingredients. So some people prefer foods with a smaller ingredient list. I think this is true. I think we see a trend in human food that labels with a long list of chemical ingredients are not being bought as much in favor of those with shorter, healthier ingredient lists. So they're saying go for something similar with the dog food. Secondly is grain-free alternatives. So this is interesting. With growing popularity of grain-free diets for pets, consider grain-free options. Okay. Number three is organic and natural offerings. Number four is functional. So this is similar to what we saw with ChatGPT. So probiotics for digestive health or joint supporting ingredients or antioxidants. And fifth, novel protein sources. So this is an interesting one. Have meals with venison, duck, or fish and cater to pet owners looking for unique protein options. So both answers are very, very good, a good analysis of the market and of future product opportunities. The fourth way that AI can be helpful for your business, and I think it's a very powerful way, is with analyzing your data and showing you trends and helping you find insights into that data, which you can then use to make your business more profitable. There's 5 different ways that AI can help with this. It can help you design tests to test a business hypothesis. It can run a predictive analysis and analytics on existing data. So if you're looking to forecast sales or growth patterns or buying trends of customers into the future, you can upload, existing data and it can project that into the future. Third is that it can do a segmentation analysis where it can break down your main buying base into different segments, which you can understand their behaviors and preferences better to help you better target them in your marketing. It can help you identify opportunities. You can describe, again, it's great at problem solving. So describing business goals and challenges, ChatGPT can help you analyze available data that you have prepared for it. It can be Excel sheets, Word documents, PDF files, information online, and it can look at the data and help answer your question from your business's data. And I know some of you are probably thinking, well, is it safe to upload my business's data to any of these systems, ChatGPT included? I'm going to talk about that more in a few more slides. But yes, it is an important question to answer. And fifth is feedback analysis. So if you've gotten feedback, maybe it's reviews, if you're selling on Amazon or another online marketplace, you have reviews or other customer feedback and you want to analyze it for themes and to gain insight into customer satisfaction or pain points, you can upload that type of data and ask ChatGPT to give you the analysis and the insights. Now, I mentioned that ChatGPT's newest version is called o1 Preview. They also, about the same time, launched this 4.0 with Canvas, and we're going to look at Canvas next. I was asked about Canvas not too long ago, so I wanted to tell you about this as a new type of way to interact with ChatGPT. And it's mainly used if you want to develop code. Now, you might be thinking, well, you came here to learn about marketing. What do you care about writing computer code? Well, I'm going to show you why, because it's a really powerful way you can write custom programs. Just like if you had to hire a developer and pay probably thousands of dollars, you can write custom programs to help your business do any number of tasks. And ChatGPT with Canvas has inline suggestions, code reviews, and bug fixes to help you maintain high quality code. I'm going to show you how this works because I'm sure not many of you are coders, and I'm not a professional coder either, but businesses are really able to use this very cool feature. So I'm going to take this prompt, and what we're going to write code to do, it's going to write me the code to analyze my business sales data for the last 10 years, looking for trends to help me increase my profit. So that's all I'm going to ask ChatGPT to do. Now we're going to see that I'm going to create a new chat and I'm going to select the Canvas model. And we do that by going to the dropdown and we'll see here it says ChatGPT with Canvas, it says it's beta. And now I'm going to just paste in that prompt. I'm going to say, write me the code, and let's see what it does. So if any of you are familiar with looking at computer code, you'll notice that this is indeed some computer code. Now, without specifying what type of code I wanted this to be in, it gave it to me in the Python language. It says Python script. Now, Python is a very powerful and versatile coding language. It's used in many both offline and online things. So Python can be great, except if you want to run Python code, you need an integrated development environment, essentially a place where you can launch this code from. And that takes a bit of a time to set up. And so many of you wouldn't want to actually have this code in Python. You want to have this in something you can run instantly without installing another program to help you run it. So I'm going to say, redo this code in HTML, CSS, and Java. Just so you know, HTML, CSS, and Java are the main languages for websites. So let's see if it can do this. So it says, certainly, if you'd like to convert the data analysis concept into HTML, CSS, JavaScript web application, in other words, a website, we will create the code. And here we have, it rewrote our program into our code. Now, what this means is this is just a file you can double click on and it will open in your browser. Nothing else needed. You can run it in your browser. And so double clicking on that file, we pull up our new website and it just wrote the code for this website. It was very cool. So like I said, I asked it to analyze 10 years of sales data. Now remember, I didn't provide it our sales data. So what it did is it came up with its own values here. And as you hover over certain points, you see 10 years ago, 2024, 50,000 in sales. The red line is our cost of 30,000 in cost, and our green line is our profit, 20,000 in profit. And it came up with values for each of the 10 years, which is great. You can, of course, always have it redo the code. You could say, actually, here are my values, redo the code and remake this graph. And it didn't just write one graph, it has another one, which is our 3-month moving average of sales and profits here. And another one, our average monthly profit trend. And of course, the data here is fictional. It didn't know our actual data, but you can see the possibility. It wrote this website for us in a matter of seconds. And all we need to do is say, if we want it redone, if we want new information, you just tell it that. And the real power here is it's like you have a developer working for you for free, and you're able to write this code and create programs and applications for your business. Doesn't have to be analyzing your sales data. It can be for anything you want, just like a real developer would be doing. So it's very cool. This is again called ChatGPT with Canvas. Canvas is kind of this layout which helps you code and code more efficiently. I'm sure you guys might have some questions about this, and I'm happy to go into more detail and try to answer your questions. But I did want to show you this Canvas part because this is a brand new feature and it's very, very powerful, I think. Okay, so the last aspect we're going to talk about here is prototyping and design. So you can have ChatGPT help you visualize a concept. So if you wanted to create an image mock-up of a website or a mobile app or some other, even a product design, it can do that. Number two, you can create wireframes or mock-ups of a layout. So you might say, look, I want to launch a new website for Purina. Analyze other dog food company websites and help me create the best layout and the best interface possible. It will do that for you. It's amazing because this would have taken, a team of experienced website designers and developers, and now ChatGPT will do a very good job here on its own. Number three is user flows. So an important part of making any kind of web app or website is how do the users move around the website? They can help you brainstorm ideas for that. As well as number four, creating user interface and user experience design. 3 and 4 are pretty closely related. Point number 5 are the features this website should have. So the features can be considered maybe the buttons across the top. Some websites might have services or products, a contact page, an about page, maybe other pages and other features. Well, ChatGPT can help you analyze the best performing websites in your industry and give you the list of features and pages that you definitely should have. And lastly, if you're prototyping or designing new products, you might need to write descriptions of the products, even if they're pre-launch, if it's like a beta thing, you can have ChatGPT write really good product descriptions that you can use in your marketing materials. So we've looked at 5 ways and we've done some demos about how ChatGPT can be useful for your business. So I want to provide you with a few more strategies and tips which can help you get the most out of using any AI model. The first one is to write clear instructions. These are your prompts. So I showed you the prompt guide. Make sure you include details in your prompts to make them more relevant and useful to what you're looking for. Sometimes if you have a very big request, ChatGPT or the other AI models can get stuck or bogged down with trying to answer it fully, and they might actually give up in the middle of an answer and just end in the middle of the sentence. Like I've seen this happen. It's strange, but it's just because it took too long to give you the answer, and they've got a million other requests coming in, so they give up. If you see this happening, break down your questions into smaller steps. You could say, here's my data. Step one, give me this. And it'll do that. And then you can have step two and three later as different questions. Point number two is provide reference text. So if you have a certain tone or style of writing, you can upload these examples and have it copy the tone and the style. If you want to have citations or sources cited, you can just request that happen. It usually doesn't happen by default, but it will happen if you ask. Number three is tell ChatGPT to take its time and to think through its answers very carefully. Now, because it has a time limitation of providing an answer to each individual person who comes to it, it tends to try to do a fast job to move on to the next request. But you can actually tell it to go slow and take its time, which will have it take more time, interestingly enough, and can result in a higher quality or more thought out output that it gives you. Now we saw that Agent GPT reiterated its answer based on anticipating what questions you would ask it as follow-ups. Now ChatGPT, it does this to some extent, but not quite as robustly as Agent GPT. So one thing you can do is if it gives you an answer, just say, hey, did you miss anything on this? Can you look through it and see if you missed anything? And it will actually do that for you. And it might say, oh yes, I missed this piece of information. I didn't consider this. So it's sometimes a good to ask it that. And number four is to split up complex tasks. As I talked about before, you can see it struggle to answer large questions, or if its response is going to be 20 pages in length, it will sometimes not have the time to give you the full output. So you can say to break it up into these smaller questions, and it can do each one individually. Now, we've talked a lot about text generation, and I think that's a primary way that businesses can use AI like ChatGPT. But an image generation, and soon I'm sure video generation and audio generation are going to be just as accessible. Image generation is already very powerful. These are all images generated by AI, some of them with ChatGPT, some of them with some of the other models out there. But you can see some of the detail and the quality in these output images. Images of people's faces, or flowers, or toys and products look almost indistinguishable from an actual photograph. It's pretty amazing. And I know a lot of people ask and wonder, well, if you generate an image on AI, can I use it for my business in marketing or online? And as the laws currently stand, they do say that any image you generate with AI belongs to you. And so it's not copyrighted by somebody else, and you can then use that for your marketing purposes. Now, that might change in the future, and there's a lot of kind of debate and discussion about this. So we'll have to keep our eye on it. But right now, this is what the law says. So you are clear to use AI generated images in a business situation. And you don't need to have really well thought out prompts to get great images. Here's a couple of examples. You can see that the prompts are, they're quite simplistic. You can give the ChatGPT a lot of leeway in interpreting your prompt, and you can see it gives some pretty cool, accurate, funny results. Your imagination is the only limit here with generating images, and I'm sure we're only going to see this get better over time. Already, newer computers and laptops are coming shipped with these neural processing units called NPUs. And that's different from the CPU or the GPU, if anybody's familiar with those. Anyway, these NPU units are meant to help you generate things like these images directly on the computer, not even needing internet access. So this is the way the future is moving here, is generating AI images, text, and video very rapidly for any number of use cases for your business. Now, we've talked a lot about some of the pretty amazing things that ChatGPT is enabling, and I wanted to show this chart just showing how impactful and how rapidly it's made an impact, I guess, on the world. As we can see here, this is the time it took online businesses to reach 1 million users. And it took Netflix, which was not launched back in 1999, 3.5 years. It took Facebook 10 months. It took Spotify 5 months, and it took ChatGPT when it was released almost 2 years ago to the day, actually. It took it only 5 days to reach 1 million users. And as the last time I looked, the ChatGPT app was the most downloaded app on Android and I think iOS too. So very rapid adoption, very large adoption. This technology is definitely here to stay, and many, many people are using it. Now, as we look forward a little bit into, well, what does the future hold for this technology? ChatGPT, AI in general. The founder, or one of the founders of OpenAI, Sam Altman, he recently published his 5 stages of AI. I won't read through each of these five in a ton of detail, but it's very interesting to see the progression that he envisions AI taking. And he might be the person best in the world to actually understand this technology since his company has created probably what's considered the best AI model. So stage one is conversational AI. This is essentially where we're at right now, where you would chat with it like you're having a conversation, write me this text, create me this image, write me this computer code. It's just like you're having a conversation really with a person. Stage two, which might be coming in a year, who knows, um, is really reasoning AI. It can perform more basic problem-solving tasks. And we see this a little bit with Agent GPT, where it's reasoning your initial question, its answer, intuitively thinking of your next question, and so on. It's doing more reasoning than we've seen before. Stage three is autonomous AI. And these AI systems will regularly operate for you or for your business, but without any interaction needed from you. So right now, these systems really don't work, but they can run and fix their own problems if something goes wrong without you needing to get involved. So it's an autonomous AI, like an employee, but who scores in the 99th percentile on all of those standardized tests. The fourth stage is innovating AI. Now, Sam Altman thinks these AI systems will develop their innovations to themselves independently of needing other people. So they won't just run your process or what you want it to do. It'll be thinking about improving them without your input. And it'll be thinking about how to do a better job and achieve the goals you say you want, and probably also the goals it thinks you want in a more effective and efficient way than you thought about. And stage five is the organizational AI. Sam sees this as the final stage of AI, capable of performing the work of an entire organization. Every level from marketing, sales, probably even manufacturing with your robotics and factories. And he says every person you currently have and every function carried out performed by AI agents, computers, and robotics that work together. And he predicts we'll be at this level within 5 to 10 years, but other people think it could take up to 50 years. So, this is one person's vision for the future of AI, but I think it does hold quite a bit of credibility as far as what I've seen so far. So another question I get asked a lot is what are some of the risks AI poses to society, to jobs, to the economy? I think it's a great question, and I do have some information about that here and something to be aware of. I think it should be point of discussion at least. So here's a report put out um, about it was this year, 6 months ago or so, and it's projecting the amount of jobs that will be lost by generative AI, which is this first stage we're at here. And it's saying, we're in 2024, almost in 2025. It's saying about 0.4% of jobs will be lost for generative AI. But the green bar, the light green bar, is the percent of jobs lost to non-generative AI, this more autonomous AI we saw developing. And we can see that's, in the next couple of years, 2%, 3% of jobs taken by that. And the proportion of total job losses attributed to the generative AI is the line. This is kind of a worst case scenario. I think if all businesses were to adopt AI, you could be looking at 20 to 30% fewer employees needed overall, So it's a pretty big numbers. There's a lot more, and this was actually a report by the Biden administration trying to establish some AI safety regulations. And this is their report. Internationally, the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, also did a report. They're anticipating 40% of jobs impacted worldwide. And interestingly, if we look at the advanced economies like the US versus emerging markets, that advanced economies like the US in the red bar have a higher exposure to job loss, and emerging markets have lower exposure because the types of jobs going on. So also in low income companies, they have less exposure. So it could hit the developed world and nations like the US and Europe harder than other parts of the world. So what are some considerations for using AI with your business? Both ethically, technology speaking, security, and risk. So here's the four factors that I've thought of through my own experience with AI and knowledge about this industry. The first thing is it can get facts wrong. So be aware that sometimes if it cites a fact like this person was the CEO of a company in this year, it's right 99% of the time or more, but sometimes it just gets the wrong piece of information in there. So you probably want to double check important facts. Number two is allowing AI to log into other accounts on your behalf and make posts or, book hotels, access banks. Some AIs have integrations to do that, but it's still early on, and I think there's a lot of risk involved with that right now. So I would steer clear of allowing any AIs to access these accounts for you. Number three is the free tier of some of these services can be slow or unavailable at times. So make sure you're always aware that that could be a risk so you don't get stuck without having access to AI when you need it. And number four, if you upload a document, OpenAI's policy used to be any text chat you put in there, any document you uploaded could be used to train ChatGPT in the future. So essentially, it's now part of its knowledge base. Now, businesses obviously didn't like this. They didn't want their personal data, their product data, whatever part of ChatGPT's knowledge, because it could be then given to somebody else as part of an answer. Now, ChatGPT, since about 7 or 8 months ago, has an option that says do not train ChatGPT on my data. You can enable that if you want, and then it will supposedly not use your data. But again, I think it's still a bit of a gray area how these companies handle data, because obviously data is the value here. These models were made possible by training them on human generated data, writing, images, etc. So it is in their business model to use data. Let's just say that. And I think we'll find that there's some companies probably not doing what they say they're doing with user data. This will probably come to light in the future. But right now, my advice is just don't put anything really sensitive into an AI for analysis. Like I wouldn't worry too much about maybe financial data, but you might want to scrub it before you put it in there of things like account numbers or names. Give it some data, but don't let it link back to your business necessarily. So these are the four factors that I feel are risks. And I also asked ChatGPT this question. I said, well, what are some of the risks of using AI for a small business? And this is what it said. It said number one, is bias. So AI algorithms can be biased, reflecting the data they were trained on, and that's absolutely true. Sometimes they can output text that might be like discriminatory or racist, and we've seen these things happen from time to time. Secondly, is there's a lack of human touch. So you wouldn't want your business to appear to be solely driven by AI marketing, perhaps that could turn off your target customers. So you want to retain an element of control and personalization in the process, at least feel like right now. Number three is over-reliance. So using ChatGPT for marketing text could lead to reliance on this that can reduce the creativity and innovation of humans and result in a lack of differentiation. So I agree with this point that it can might reduce the creativity, innovation, and maybe even intelligence of humans on the long term. And number four is limited context. So as you saw in my prompts, I'm Purina, give me a SWOT analysis of my competitors. That's a very small piece of information for ChatGPT to run with. So it has to make assumptions, and it might sometimes make incorrect ones. So kind of the more context you give your prompts, the more the better. You can use those prompt guides and give it as much context as you need to. That way, it'll have the most well-rounded responses that are going to meet as many of your objectives as possible. Now, along with the discussion of AI being used and maybe resulting in job loss or other ethical things, there are several studies and organizations that just wanted to leave you with that are concerned about AI and discussing it, in the public space. So the first one is the Future of Life Institute. It started by creating a letter that was signed by people like Elon Musk and Steve Wozniak, the co-founder of Apple, and a bunch of other, important and everyday people, and over 27,000. And it said, let's pause the development of AI more powerful than this ChatGPT 4 version 4, so we can, create policies and laws to protect jobs and protect society. So that was their initiative. It definitely didn't succeed. Nothing was paused. Everything accelerated even faster. So, but they're still working on discussing it and trying to make sure AI has a good future with society and not a detrimental one. Secondly, is the UK government's Bletchley Declaration, where they cite catastrophic AI harm and have other warnings and signed by 28 nations. You can read about that here. So this is the UK government's perspective and an article from a respected tech website that talks about how generative AI is stealing the valor of human intelligence. And essentially, if we all exclusively use AI, what will happen to our minds over time? So interesting read, and all these links are here. So feel free to pursue them more if you want to learn more about these topics. So I know we had a ton to cover, and hopefully this gave you some food for thought and some good ideas of how to use AI for your business. Now I'd be happy to take your questions, and we still have about 25 or 30 minutes, so I think we can get through many of them. Oh, you're still muted.
I clicked it, but I didn't have those batteries for my mouse, so bear with me. So we only have a few questions. So if anyone else has some, go ahead and drop those into the Q&A box so we can pick Cameron's brain while we have him live. So we'll start with the first question that came in early on. This attendee, they are working on a project that looks to assess compliance to a set of best practices resulting in passes, fails, needs improvement. The data is primarily text-based. How would ChatGPT assess meeting one of the three states?
Well, so yeah, it sounds like you've got a data set and you want analysis done and you have certain questions you want answered. In a nutshell, that sounds like your situation. And from what I've seen and what I've done, ChatGPT is really good at this. There's probably a lot of questions in between your questions that you might not know you should be asking, and it'll often fill in those gaps for you. So my recommendation would be, making sure there's no proprietary or sensitive information in your data. Upload it to ChatGPT. I didn't mention it, but when you are chatting in the chat box, there's a paperclip icon. So if you want to attach a file, you can do it there. Upload your data file, ask it your question, and see what answers it gives you. And then you can always say, okay, well, now tell me this and tell me this. So go off its first answer and see how well it did, and then you can dig deeper with subsequent questions, and it'll probably be able to answer most of the questions you have about that data.
So next question, does ChatGPT and Agent GPT and/or use Bing to search? Do users have any control over which search engine is used?
That's a great question. So as I showed, when you went to ChatGPT and asked it about something recent, it actually searched the internet. Took about 3 seconds, got the data from multiple websites, and then used that in the answer. And I actually have, I don't know the answer to this, but it's asking what search engine does it use? Um, my initial thought is that ChatGPT has its own. It doesn't use Bing or Google or Yahoo or any of the others because they're really positioned as a competitor to those. And the best of my knowledge, it does have its own search engine because remember, ChatGPT was trained back in 2018, 2019, 2020 by scraping all of the data on the entire internet, everything, every piece of text that was written. So it essentially was a very robust search engine back then. And I think that's still the technology it uses now to search the internet and answer questions from that data.
Let's see. Next question. Um, will ChatGPT create PowerPoint slides? And if so, how do you capture those?
That's a great question. So I mentioned there's some integrations, and some of the kind of beta integrations now is having ChatGPT be able to create like a Google online PowerPoint presentation using the Google Slides. It's not a default feature right now. So what it can do is you can say create me a slide or whole presentation about some topic. Let's say, it's about dog food. What it can do is it can create an outline for all the slides. It can give you the text for all the slides. It can even cite its sources, but it doesn't have the ability right now to put the text into a Google slide for you. You would be copying and pasting and doing the formatting and putting in images yourself manually. So it's kind of 50-50 right now, but I'm sure the future is headed the way where maybe see they're a competitor with Google, so that's a problem. They don't want to integrate with Google services, but ChatGPT might say we're going to launch an Office suite and we'll make presentations that are compatible with PowerPoint format, and that could be coming. But right now, you're kind of left with the copy and paste method.
Let's see. Did you use OpenAI's DALL, to make the images you showed, or was that done from within ChatGPT?
Yeah, great question. I'll back up to the images because it's a good point to know. So on these images, this is a mix up of images from the Dolly, the ChatGPT image generator, and other leading image generators. Um, these two are strictly the Dolly. And for anybody who wasn't familiar with that term, I didn't mention it. ChatGPT named its image generator this Dolly 3. You don't really need to know the Dolly part because now when you go into ChatGPT, if you say, make me an image of something, you don't need to select Dolly as your model. It just knows to use image generator model called the Dolly. So it's all behind the scenes. But yeah, these are ChatGPTs. And ChatGPT, in my opinion, has probably the best image generation capabilities, but all of them offer that. And even the new computers coming out late this year, all of next year, they all have these neural processing units, which is a new chip on the motherboard, which enables the creation of AI content directly on the computer, so you don't need internet access. So that's a pretty cool thing that's coming in the future.
Let's see. I'd like to learn more about asking and ChatGPT or GPT to create graphs for me from data. What is it called, and what's a good resource for me to use GPT for basic coding? I like how you got it to make a web page with a graph.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'll hop back to the graph here. So in ChatGPT, it's not able to make a bar chart as like an image and let you download a JPEG of this chart based on your data. It can't create images in ChatGPT, but as we saw with ChatGPT Canvas, you can have it write code to do anything. You can say visualize this data in a bar chart, in a line chart, in a pie chart, I mean, I had to create an interactive zoomable map of the world, and it did that. It actually pulled in the code and pulled in resources. It's pretty amazing. It can intuitively figure out a ton of stuff. So if you have a question of visualizing data, I wouldn't hesitate to use the canvas and say, write me the code. And again, if you want it to run in your web browser, which is the easiest, say, write me the code in HTML and I want it to be a bar chart. I want it to look like this. You can make it much fancier than my version. This was no revisions at all. But the fun part becomes when you say, okay, change the colors, change the spacing, you can change absolutely anything, and it understands what you're asking like you're talking to a human developer, which is the amazing part. So I encourage you to explore the Canvas option and writing that HTML code because I'm pretty sure it'll solve that need for you right there.
When fact checking, especially for important info, how to compute its citations?
So by default, ChatGPT won't bother to cite like in a footnote format its sources for data, but you can absolutely ask it. So if you say, write me an article about the health benefits of dog food that's made out of salmon, right? And cite your sources, it will read this information probably from a variety of scientific journals. You'll find if it finds any information online that's not behind a login page, that you don't have to pay for. And there's of course a ton of information for free. It'll cite its sources and it can give you that at the bottom in like a footnote format, like an academic paper. So I think that's answering your question. You just ask it to cite your sources. If you prefer to be inline citations, like in parentheses, you can say, just inline, or if you want a footnote format, just say in the footnotes, whichever you specify, it'll do.
Yeah, and Candace, if that did not answer your question, go ahead and drop further question into the Q&A. We'll make sure that we got you answered. So next question, which tools is best for AI prompts for improving SEO?
So you don't need a tool beyond just using ChatGPT, from what I've found. And I've experimented with SEO for dozens of websites and online applications. So usually when you start improving your SEO, let's say it's for your website, you have a starting point, right? Like you already have a website, and maybe your SEO is not that good. So you can just copy and paste your website link, plop it right into ChatGPT, and because now it can search current websites, it'll just go and look. So you don't need to copy and paste the text. It'll go and look. It'll not just recommend improvements in the text, in your headings, and your paragraphs. It might recommend other errors on your website. Like maybe you have missing metadata, maybe you don't have something called the alt image text, which helps your SEO. So it will usually by default look for all these errors and give you not just what you asked for, but probably more. So there's no other tool needed. You can just use ChatGPT for that very simply.
Let's see. I've got something I'm gonna drop in the chat to you, Cameron. Let me know if this is something that applies
Sure.
for our discussion today, please. And if there's any other questions, please go ahead and drop those in. We have about 15 more minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I'll try to reply to that, but the answer is I don't really have one. The question is just if I want to have my own VPN Zoom type service, can you recommend a product? Um, I don't know a product. I'm not really sure what that would mean, but it sounds like it's outside of the scope of ChatGPT and AI, so it's probably an entirely
That's what I
different
was
discussion.
thinking.
But I don't really have an answer to that one.
Okay, thank you. Okay, like I said, we have 15 minutes if anyone wants to, okay, here we go. Can I ask AI to review and improve my website?
Absolutely. Yes. Normally when it comes to improving an existing business website, something I've spent a lot of time doing, SEO is going to be of a primary interest, but that's not the only thing. Other things you might be looking for are what features should your website have? So if you're in an industry, you have competitors and their websites might have certain pages or parts of pages that are very popular that people are interacting with a lot, and you might be missing those. If you just ask ChatGPT, what features am I lacking that my competitors have? It will go out and do that research and find that information and then just tell you. So SEO features. And the third thing it can be useful for is creating images or mock-ups of an ideal homepage for your business or an about page. So it's fun to have it create images to give you a visual idea of the style of a website that it thinks is ideal. Now, if your website's 3 or 4 or 5 years old, it probably looks outdated and it could probably be revised. And so asking ChatGPT to come up with some good ideas about the layout and user interface can be a good step towards understanding how it needs to look, as well as having good SEO to really help you maximize your business.
We have some more questions popping in. So let's see. Where is ChatGPT at currently in being able to edit and create videos?
It's a great question. So the last I heard was that they had a very impressive video generation algorithm or part. And it was so good that a lot of Hollywood movie studios were very nervous that anybody could generate almost a full-length movie. And it's like, well, where does that leave Hollywood? So ChatGPT had a really big meeting, it's like 5 or 6 months ago with the Hollywood execs. It was in the news. And after that, ChatGPT essentially went silent on its video generation. So I'm pretty sure they got pressure to not give access to it to the public, at least for now, because it was too good. It was too disruptive, and somehow they were convinced not to release it, even though it probably would have made them a lot of money, but it would have hurt established movie studios. So we'll have to see how that evolves. There are other movie generating AIs that specifically do video. Runway is one of the best. Um, Runway AI, it's called. And there's a handful of others, but essentially they're small enough that they don't care what the movie studios want them to do. So they're trying to push creating images, videos the best, the way they look the best, but they have to be limited. They're very short right now, like 10-second clips. So anyway, we'll see this happen a lot and evolve in 2025, I'm sure. But right now, your options are very limited when creating video content.
Could you please show how I can secure or remove my information from being used by AI in the future? So when you were talking about that earlier, if you could just go into that a little
Yeah,
bit deeper.
I don't think I'll go into the menu right now just because I'm logged into my own account. But all you need to do is if you have created an account with OpenAI for ChatGPT, you just go to the settings, and right there, there's a toggle switch, and it just says, yeah, essentially allow ChatGPT to be trained on my conversations. You just disable that, and then according to ChatGPT, they won't be trained. Now, again, um, I I don't believe everything every tech company says. So I'm not sure I believe that fully, but that's what their claim is right now. And I'm not sure about Google and those other competitors if they have something similar. I think they do because they're also concerned about user privacy. But you'd have to learn and look at how to disable those types of features in different platforms outside of this meeting because I'm not sure how to do it there.
And is there a chat GPT for just image and graphic creation?
So there's not. In fact, that's a good question. When ChatGPT first had Dolly released, you had to select it specifically and kind of put it in the mode of image generation. But they did away with that and they just integrated it. So as soon as you say create an image, create a picture, create anything visual, it just knows it's going to go use the Dolly model and output it. So you don't need to worry about anything special. You just go to ChatGPT. Now they don't allow you to create images on the free plan. That's one thing you do need to pay $20 a month for. You can create images. And as far as I know, it's unlimited image creation. So you could be creating thousands a month for that price. But yeah, you do need to pay $20 a month to get access to that.
I want to develop a real-time interactive program. Will AI be able to do that?
Well, that's a really good question. As I've showed, the AI code generation is quite impressive. But I found limitations, specifically if it's trying to write too many lines of code, it times out. It gets to that point where it doesn't have any more time to work on your answer and it just stops in the middle of the code, which makes the code useless. Currently, I found about 300 to 400 lines of code is its limit. So what that means is this little example up on the screen, this was about 100 lines of code and just to make this simple website. So as you start to ask it to have a more complex program, whether it's a website or a Python program, you're going to quickly get to 300 or 400 lines of code, and then it's just going to not give you an error. It's just going to stop. So that's your main limitation right now. Some ways to solve that might be to create different sections of code, each which is short, and that kind of slot into a master program that calls those separately. It's more complicated though, and probably outside of the scope of most normal people. So at this point, I would say just try it. And if you get to the point where it's stopping to generate updates to the code because it's over 300 or 400 lines, you know you've hit a limitation. And I'm sure that that's going to be improved and upgraded soon because even a year ago, the length of the output text that ChatGPT could give you was much, much shorter than it is now. It's like 100 times longer now that it can give you an answer. And I think the code is developing in that way too. And probably by the end of next year, we might find code that can be 4,000 lines long, not just 400 lines long.
Are there any recommended YouTube videos or social media pages that would be good references for learning more about AI?
That's a great question. I do find YouTube videos useful, and I don't really have one specific channel or person who produces videos that I would recommend. Um, there's a lot of great content, so I would go in with a specific question. So maybe how do I generate the best images on ChatGPT, or how do I use ChatGPT with Canvas to write HTML code for my business? Because the more specific you can be, you're going to find video content that's very up to date, but also very relevant to that topic. Because, in the hour and a half we've had here, I probably only talked about 10% of the AI topics that are possible to talk about. So it's such a broad thing. You'd be kind of overwhelmed with the information unless you have a more specific question, and then you can find a video just on that. And I would look for those that are only been out for a month or so, because anything older, these models have been updated so rapidly, it's not gonna be super relevant to you anymore.
Is it possible to create an agent using Agent GPT and use it independently on the website or other apps?
Well, it's a good question. It's not currently a feature to create an independent agent on Agent GPT, no. ChatGPT experimented with that for a while, letting people create what they called custom GPTs, which would be a more specific use case. And they even have a marketplace for custom GPTs, which was supposed to be like an app store where people could find them and download them. That never really materialized. I don't think that ever caught on because just the base ChatGPT model essentially does everything. Like I mentioned, you don't need to have thousands of different models. Just the main model can do all those things. And that's the way the industry is moving. So at this point, I don't know of any really useful ways to create a custom GPT. They don't seem to be, the industry doesn't seem to be heading in that direction.
Do we have any other questions? We've got a few minutes left.
But I think I will say one more thing as I thought of. There is creating your own LLM or large language model. And so, as I mentioned, large language models can be for text, images, video, or music, and you can train them on any kind of data to create that kind of output. And there's a lot of companies creating custom LLMs for different use cases. So, whereas custom GPTs have kind of just been all rolled into one main one, I think the custom LLMs for image, video, text, audio, and I'm sure other things in the future. That's an area where there's a lot of development going on right now, and dozens and dozens of startups training their own LLM models to then sell a service to people with a certain type of goal in mind.
What improvements do you think we will see in ChatGPT in the next year? Is that a loaded
Yeah,
question?
yeah. Well, it's really hard to say, but I think we'll see it be more thoughtful in its answers, provide answers faster with less delay, and also provide longer answers. I think those three things are guaranteed. And whatever else AI has in store for us, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of speculation, but it's really hard to know beyond that what we might come to expect.
All right, Cameron, any last words of wisdom for us?
Well, I mean, I appreciate everybody's feedback and comments, and I think it's good that you came to this meeting just to learn about, like I said, maybe 10% of AI's capabilities for a business. There's so much out there. Stay engaged, stay aware of this space as a business owner or a founder of a new startup. I think AI is only going to more deeply impact the success of your business going forward, and you can't ignore it for sure. I think you need to be aware of the tools. Hopefully, you're using some of the tools. Hopefully after this, you'll go and try out some of the tools which you saw. Um, be aware of it and be involved. And yeah, and I think that's the best advice I can leave you with. And keep an eye on the SBDC's trainings because we'll hopefully be doing many more of these next year with more updates as this technology progresses.
We did have another question pop in. Will it build on its responses if you discontinue the learning feature?
So the learning feature for the privacy standpoint that only says don't train the global model based on my questions. It will remember in your account, it will remember your questions and its answers and it will build upon that, but only for you, for your account. So yeah, you're safe to turn off the global training thing and it will still remember you and your questions from the past.
Fabulous. Okay, so we're about out of time. I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up. Cameron, thank you so much. And thank you all for attending. I do want to share a little that I couldn't share earlier, just a little bit about the SBDC network for those of you that are not familiar. We are a partnership program between the U.S. Small Business Administration, George Mason University, and local host institutions throughout Virginia. With 26 locations across the Commonwealth, we provide training and technical assistance to small businesses in their local communities, and our one-on-one advising services are available to you at no charge. Thank you for attending today, and thank you again, Cameron. This was fabulous as always. A reminder, you will receive an email with a link to the recording and to the slides. If you would like to sign up for upcoming webinars or access recorded webinars, you can visit virginiasbdc.org/training. You can sign up for free and confidential advising sessions by emailing help@virginiasbdc.org or via our website. And we do hope to see you at our next session. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.